Hey guys, welcome to Red's Projects. Today, going to work on the XG Ute once again. A few things I want to do today. One of them is to finish the exhaust. So yeah, that's one of the things I want to get done. Another one is the radiator. I want to put the radiator in. All right, so I'm going to start with the air filters. And I want to do that before I put the radiator in because I want to put the bonnet on. And then I can look through where the radiator is and look at my clearance between the air filter and the bonnet. That's the main thing I'm worried about is air filter to bonnet clearance. And with what I've got here, I'm sure I'm gonna have to cut a hole in the bonnet anyway, but we'll just see how we go. Okay, so my choice of filters has been on looks and, like I said, functionality to get to the bowls and get to everything with the filter on. Also, there's this show on Motor Trend called Engine Masters. They used to be on YouTube. Now they've gone on Motor Trend, which is like a pay by the month subscription thing you have to do. Awesome show. I pay for the subscription literally just for this one show. And basically they have a engine dyno and they test a whole bunch of theories and different parts on the engine dyno, which is a lot more scientific way of doing stuff. And they did a massive episode a while ago, I think it was like season 2, where they tested like 19 different air filters. So some of the data I'm going to show you soon is from that episode, or all of the data is from that episode. And it's kind of helped me determine what I want to do, depending on bonnet clearance and what actually works, which is awesome. So let me just get my notes and we'll go through all the data and talk about it a little bit. Okay, so on this episode of Engine Masters, they had a big block Chev. It was 489 cubic inches. It was big compression, big revs. It's a real rowdy thing. It made 752 horsepower at the flywheel with no air filter. So exactly like this, open carby, no restriction whatsoever. And they deliberately used a fairly high horsepower engine to show how bad some of the filters were and show some of the restriction. If they had used a 300 horsepower engine, the losses wouldn't have been as drastic. And like on a 300 horsepower engine like this, it won't make as much difference, but the data is still valid. All right, let's start with this little guy. This is a 6x2 inch filter element. It uses the same base and top as this one. And that was the worst one of their tests. It killed 145 horsepower on that big block Chev, so pretty bad. Next one is a 6x3 inch. They did not test this one, but 3 versus 2, it has to be better than this. So that's something to consider. The next two filters are 9x2 inch, and they did not test 9x2, but they did test 10 by 1.25, and that killed 33 horsepower. And the reason I got two filters here, this one's got a taller base than this guy, which should work for me a little bit better because these stick up a long way. The next one is this guy. Now I love this thing. Never seen these in Street Machine when I was young. Awesome filters. Now it's got mesh, foam filter, then another piece of mesh. With all that in there, it kills 72 horsepower. But if you unclip it, take that out, take that out, and take that out. If you use it just like that, it actually adds 5 horsepower. And there's one more filter that I really like that they tested. It's the K&N Velocity Stack. I really like these, much the same as this one. I really like them from childhood Street Machines on top of tunnel rams and all that sort of stuff. They basically look like this, like a velocity stack, but they have a 9x5 inch filter that goes on top. But that K&N filter on the velocity stack actually added 1 horsepower. So it was no restriction at all. The velocity stack side of it made it pick up a little bit of power and you have an air filter. Whereas this one, without an air filter, you pick up 5 horsepower, but you haven't got a filter. So that's something to think about. One thing I wouldn't mind trying, you can get a filtered lid for these guys. If I put one of those on top of that, if that works better than the foam. But anyway, that's for testing sake. So what I'll do quickly I will put the nitrous plate on, we'll put the bonnet on, and we'll start test fitting these air filters and see what fits.
You can screw it on.
Yeah, screws should be. All right, I've got the bonnet on. I pulled that black foam crap that's on the bottom of these because I need all the space I can get. So I've got a tiny little bit more room to play with. First thing I'm going to do is no filter. I want to see how close this vent tube and the top of this bowl is to the sheet metal. I've got the light set up here. I'm going to put you guys right on top of the water pump and like valley here so you get a really good view of it. And yeah, we'll go from what's going to be worst to best. So we'll start with the velocity stack and we'll work down to the 6x2. So let's do that now. No air filter. Okay, we're pretty tight. Got about width of my finger there, and just a little bit tighter on top of that vent tube. So I haven't got much hope for any of the air filters. Velocity stack. No way in hell that was ever going to fit. 9" by 2" with the taller base. Nope. 6" by 3". Nope. 6" by 2". My last hope. Still miles off. All right, nothing fits. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to cut a hole in the bonnet regardless. What I did just for the hell of it, I took the nitrous plate out, so there's no plate in there at all. It is just the gasket. So I just want to see if I were to not use the nitrous plate for now, if I could get away with any filter under the bonnet. I don't think I will, but let's try anyway. 6" by 2". I closed it. Oh, it just fits. All right, so what have I learned? The only filter I have that fits is this little 6 by 2" filter with no nitrous plate at all. And that is the same filter that killed 145 horsepower on that big block Chev. Now, before you start, I know some of you will say, Red, why don't you put a drop base filter on it and run like a 14 by 2 or a 14 by 3" filter? I don't like drop base filters, and the way these bowls are, they're big chunky things. These things high, this thing's high. I don't think it would fit that well. I'd have to drill a big hole here, which would let unfiltered air in there. So I'm not running a drop base filter. And for the other reasons, it shows off the carby a bit more, and you can get to the bowls and stuff easier if you could, you know, looking for leaks and stuff. So I'm not running a drop base filter. End of story. I will be cutting a hole in the bonnet probably tomorrow. I want to think about it a bit before I cut it, decide if I want to run the 6 by 3 or the velocity stack, which is a 9, and I'll just go from there. Today, working on the XJ Ute once again, and today I'm going to be cutting a hole in the bonnet. So I'm going to cut out that bigger hole, the 9" hole, not for that filter, for the velocity stack, because I don't care what anyone says, I really like these. Probably an ants again. Huh? Probably an ants again. I don't know why. How is? Yeah. Sorts of creepy crawlers. Alright, ready to go. Never done this before, so feel free to laugh at me. Alright, that should be a big enough hole. Actually didn't turn out too bad. Alright, I put my nitrous plate back on to lift the carby back to where it was going to be, and I guess I'll just sit it on and just see how far out I am. Alright, I'm going to take some more meat out the back. Front and the sides are pretty good. Probably another 5mm back, I reckon. Ah, that hurt. Alright, this is probably a bad idea, but I'm too lazy to take the bonnet back off again, so... Wow, look at that. There we go. She sticks up a lot higher than I thought it would, especially front, the angle it's got, but it clears. It's all that matters. Alright, let's see what the 9x2 looks like. Look at that base. Just like that. Alright, so I kind of like the way the 9-inch filter looks. It fills the hole in nicely, especially the 2-inch one doesn't sit too high. So maybe I might get a 9x2-inch filter, and I'll get a 3 and a 4-inch element and just see how they look. And obviously the bigger it is, the more it flows as well. So yeah, I might experiment with that. Filters are cheap, so I'll just get a couple and just see how I go. And then it might be that I'll run a 9x2 on the street, and maybe I'll paint the lid white. The element, I'll try and get a white one that kind of doesn't stand out too much, and it'll be a little bit less likely to get pulled over for it. And then maybe when I race it, I will put the stack, the velocity stack back on, and then just pop the foam out of it. Also, another option I have is to stack 9-inch filters on top of the velocity stack and take that out, run a really long stud and put 9-inch filters on top. So that's a 2, I can put a 4 or a 5 or whatever, and that will definitely flow enough, and a velocity stack will help you gain a little bit of power. Alright, that's enough about air filters, and that's it for this episode. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.